Everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'm Troy Flint. I'm the Chief Information Officer and spokesperson for the California School Boards Association. We represent just about every school district and county office of education in the state of California. One of the best parts of this job is getting to go to schools all around the state and seeing the magical things that are taking place on campus and in our classrooms. And what we see here today at Florence Markhofer Elementary in the Elk Grove Unified School District is such a special example of that. I wish that everybody at home could see this fabulous environment that we have here with a computer lab, a full multimedia production studio, 3D printers, just an amazing array of equipment, and even more than that, the support of caring adults and staff here who are guiding the students. So before we get into the heart of today's press conference, I'd like to thank some people who helped make this possible. Board President in Elk Grove, Nancy Charas Espinoza, who helped facilitate this. My counterpart in the communications department here at Elk Grove, Lisa Lavasser. The principal, Deborah Stoppelman, who invited and welcomed us onto her campus. And then the woman who is most responsible for what happens in this special classroom, Tammy Knoll, the computer resource teacher. Without them, none of this would have been possible. And we're here today to talk about AB 1023, a bill that is designed to improve and enhance cybersecurity for school districts, particularly TK-12 school districts and county offices of education throughout the state of California. I think everybody who's living in modern society knows how important cybersecurity is. So I won't get into the details. Our speakers today are going to do that for me. And our first speaker today is Assemblymember Diane Pappen, District 21, San Mateo, California, who is carrying this bill and has done a great job ushering it through the House of Origin into the Senate, where it now sits, and hopefully will be passed and sent to the governor's desk. So thank you everyone for watching.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm honored to talk about AB 1023. So this is a bill that ensures that we'll have cybersecurity from TK all the way through 12th grade. Cybersecurity attacks, they're on the rise. They're on the rise nationally. They're on the rise in school districts. They're on the rise in school districts in California. And not just big school districts like Los Angeles or Long Beach, small school districts as well. And what happens when a cybersecurity attack happens? It can affect operations, and it can mean that there will be a breach of privacy as it relates to not only staff, but to our students. So I think this bill is tremendously important in that it will equip districts, large and small, with the ability to combat cyber attacks. And it'll allow offices of education to combat cyber attacks. It'll allow us to really defend and protect against cyber attacks. And while the governor has proposed funding this year, his budget will enhance the California Cybersecurity Integration Center. The language as it relates to these services say that they will protect academic institutions, which really usually refers to post-secondary schools. So what AB 1023 does is it makes sure that schools from TK all the way through 12th grade will be able to be protected from cybersecurity by way of being folded in, if you will, to the Cybersecurity Integration Center. I'm so honored to be able to do this bill and carry the torch, as it were, to make sure that all of our elementary schools, all the way through high school, are protected from cybersecurity attacks. As technology begins to play a bigger and bigger role in schools, we've got to make sure that they're protected and they're protected against cybersecurity attacks. I'm just delighted to be here today. What an enormous honor it is. This is a great facility. I can't wait to be interviewed by some of our students momentarily. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce the current CSBA president. Please welcome Ms. Susan Markarian. As a Greek, I should have gotten that Armenian name right. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for joining us today to hear about Assembly Bill 1023, legislation that will allow schools to have the same access and input to the resources we need to implement effective cybersecurity and other governmental agencies have through the California Cybersecurity Integration Center. Throughout California, districts small and large have been victimized by cyber attacks that shut down operations, hold data hostage, and put students and staff's privacy at risk. As ransomware attacks continue to grow, local educational agencies have increased, and we've become soft targets. For many districts, it is not a matter of if, but when. They will be subject to school district cyber attacks. In 2022, cyber attacks against the educational sector increased by 36% from the previous year. While a definitive number cannot be determined, a bill signed by the governor in 2022 now requires LEAs to report to the California cybersecurity incidences that affect more than 500 people. Districts like LA Unified, San Diego Unified were hit by cyber attacks. San Luis Obispo County, Glenn County Office of Education, which affected many Sacramento area schools. To counter this threat, CSBA is sponsoring AB 1023 with Diane Papan, and we are so grateful for her to carry this for us. While Governor Newsom has proposed funding in this year's budget to enhance the California Cybersecurity Integration Center, that support is not specific to schools. Sensitive information, and we have the most vital sensitive information of any government agency out there. And it is vital we have ransomware, and especially in small districts that lack the resources and the candidate pool to find experienced people to provide these services for us. AB 1023 will ensure that we all can be covered for cyber attacks. As technology plays a bigger and bigger role in schools and society, we need to be prepared. It is eminently that we be responsible and protect the students and staff and their privacy, which is why we have tried to pass, the Assembly passed this bill 1023 unanimously, and we needed to go to the governor's desk for his signature. I would like to introduce Jerry Jones, Executive Director of Tech Services of the Sacramento County Office of Education. Jerry?
Thank you so much to both of you. We're excited to be here. I'm Jerry Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Technology Services at the Sacramento County Office of Education. I'm also a board member for CITE, which stands for California IT and Education. And we have about 2,000 members around the state that are members of CITE that are in technology and are going to be affected by this change. So we're looking forward to this as well. I'm also a board member for the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium, who sponsors video production labs just like we're in today. So I'm really excited to be here as well and seeing what the students are doing with the technology that's provided to them. So I'm also excited about that too. So let me go ahead and get started. So as many of you are probably aware, our nation's under attack from a variety of cyber criminals in the nation states. It seems like every week a new ransomware attack or massive data breach on a Fortune 500 company or a large state agency is reported in the news. However, what many people do not know is that K-12 education agencies have increasingly become the targets of these same threat actors. As we collect and retain data for over 5.8 million students, and we don't have the same resources available for cybersecurity defenses that a large company does. Ransomware can cripple an entire school district in mere hours and has become the most common form of cyber attack on schools. There have been over 1,300 publicly disclosed ransomware attacks against U.S. school districts since 2016, and at an estimated cost of over $7.5 billion. And this doesn't include all of the incidents that have never been reported. The number of school districts who have been hit with ransomware attacks has skyrocketed since 2020, culminating in a massive attack on the largest school district in California, Los Angeles Unified, which affected over 540,000 students and 70,000 employees. The incident was so serious that LAUSD had to take down all of their systems for over a week, and hackers were able to steal over 500 gigabytes of student information. Additionally, school districts have 5 times the number of student devices on their campuses than they did before COVID. Most districts have moved to one-to-one deployment of mobile devices to students so that each student now has a Chromebook that they bring to class for class-based projects as well as other learning-related activities at school. But while the number of devices K-12 must protect has grown exponentially these past 3 years, the number of staff dedicated to supporting these devices has not increased very much. What's more, K-12 agencies don't have any dedicated funding for cybersecurity defenses and staff. This means that schools have little or no resources to combat the barrage of phishing emails, social engineering scams, and other attacks that we face on a daily basis. We are woefully outnumbered and underfunded against an increasingly sophisticated enemy that is doing their best to steal our children's data and sell it back to us. Unfortunately, small school districts are in an even more precarious situation. While large school districts generally have a large technology support team that can at least spend a portion of their time on cybersecurity defenses, many of California's small school districts have only 1 or 2 technology support staff who are also responsible for protecting their entire district. And in some cases, extremely small districts don't have any dedicated technology support staff whatsoever. So let that sink in. If the largest school district in California, LAUSD, fell victim to a highly sophisticated and crippling ransomware attack, what chance does our smallest school districts face against these same cyber criminals? Sadly, the answer is very little or none at all. In addition to these challenges I've outlined, it's becoming increasingly difficult for school districts to obtain cybersecurity insurance due to the ongoing and growing cost and significant requirements, which means that there will be an ever-increasing financial risk to small school districts who become the victim of an attack. A single serious incident could pose grave consequences to a district that has no cybersecurity insurance. Now, I know I spent a lot of time talking about the many challenges that K-12 agencies face, and I also want to point out the schools have done a lot to improve the cybersecurity posture over the past 3 years, despite the little resources available to them. Many have implemented multi-factor authentication to stop hackers from breaking into their email accounts, as this requires staff to use a secondary device such as a cell phone in order to verify who they are before they're able to log in. This is the single most important defense an organization can implement, as it's the #1 way hackers are gaining access to our systems and accounts. And it's through people, not through firewalls or other things that you see in the media or in movies. So while school districts use firewalls to prevent unauthorized access to confidential data, a single email account compromise can allow a hacker to go in through the front door and gain access to the entire system for a school, which is what's happened in the past. So I know I've spent a lot of time talking about the many challenges that K-12 agencies face, but I also want to point out that schools have done a lot to improve their cybersecurity posture over the past 3 years. Oh, sorry. Sorry, repeating myself there. Just a moment. So sorry, I want to go ahead and conclude by talking about AB 1023, as it's an important step to provide the much needed help to K-12 agencies to combat these threats. This bill will ensure schools receive the same cybersecurity information, guidance, and coordination from the California Cybersecurity Integration Center, also known as CalCIC, that other California state agencies and local governments currently receive. This change will help ensure that the state agency tasked with protecting California's critical infrastructure and computer networks will provide greater focus, assistance, and support to K-12 agencies, so we no longer have to fend for ourselves. While this bill won't solve all of the challenges facing K-12 agencies today, including the lack of dedicated funding for cybersecurity defenses and staff, it's an important step in ensuring that schools receive the same information and support that other critical state agencies receive. On behalf of the Sacramento County School Districts and the California IT and Education, I want to thank Assemblymember Pappen for her efforts in sponsoring and supporting this bill. It will go a long way in helping us better protect the 5.8 million students we serve and their families. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Assemblymember Pappen, and thank you, President Mark Carrion. We have just a few minutes for questions if anyone has some in the audience.
Why don't we all come up on stage?
Yes. Good. Sir. Please continue, it's fine.
Just to like ask, like, who are like the people who are trying to like perpetrate, like, cause the attack in the first place? Where's the source, like, root source? Like, do you guys know where that might be coming from?
That's you, Jerry.
Sounds like a question for me. So they're from all over the place. Most are what are called nation state actors, which are people from other countries that are generally enemies of the United States that are trying to either install ransomware on our computers, which encrypts all of the data and makes it so we cannot access the data anymore. And then they will contact that agency and ask how much they're willing to pay in order to get the data back. And usually it's in the millions of dollars is what they generally request. Or they attack us in many other ways, such as preventing access to our systems, trying to bombard us with denial of service attacks to prevent access to the internet. So we're vulnerable because we are, again, just K-12 agencies, but we're up against various countries that are trying to steal our data and monetize it in a way that they can profit from it. And it's highly successful, as we've seen around the United States, not just with K-12, but with many different companies. We just happen to be even more vulnerable because we don't have the same resources that many Fortune 500 companies have available to them. So thanks for asking.
And can you tell us what happened in the LA school district? What was the final result?
So a lot of that is still confidential, I believe, but they were able to get all of their data back. So even though they used ransomware in order to encrypt quite a bit of it, they were able to recover their data from backups, which is why backups are so important to K-12 agencies, that we all need to make sure we have adequate backups and that we protect those so that the same threats that, or the actors that try and come in and encrypt our data can't also encrypt the backup data. So I believe they were able to restore all of the data from backup and then get their systems up and running again within about a week. But they were down for an entire week. They required all 70,000 employees to come in and change their passwords because they were not certain which accounts the threat actors had access to. So that was the only way to make sure that any bad actors were locked out of the accounts and not in the system anymore. And unfortunately, they were able to steal quite a bit of actual data and threatened that if LAUSD did not pay the ransom, that they would release it on the dark web to other hackers, which is what ended up happening because they refused to pay the ransom, which is what the United States government recommends that we do not do, because it just increases the amount of ransomware attacks as they're able to make money off of us. If they make no money or less money, they will eventually stop. But unfortunately, it's very profitable for them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions? I just want to conclude by saying, I think what we've heard today is that the need is great and the damage can be great, and that we really do need to protect our most vulnerable. I'm honored to have introduced AB 1023. I'm honored that my colleagues in the Assembly so robustly supported it. We're moving on to the Senate and hopefully to the governor's desk for signature. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the press conference.